No, we can still hear you.
No,
We
I'm
can hear you.
hitting the button right now. Please.
Muted.
We are going live, and it looks like we are live. So if you're just tuning in, you have sadly missed Pike getting put in air jail after trampling all over Ren's computer. So we're a little bit chaos because the cuteness was off the hook. So
No, that's my food. Sorry.
I don't think
All
Pike
right.
is sorry though.
No, she's not.
Instead of our normal cold open, we have another birthday and another cosmic horror cosmological reading. We'll see how inaccurately it compares to Bat Kyle's birthday of a few weeks ago. Our player, who is a year older and a year wiser, is the lovely Sans, who is our GM on Tuesday nights.
Thursdays.
And Thursday nights, sorry, and plays in just about every other night. And somebody is going to be talking about her game a little bit later. We will get into that. She's been a joy and a gift to Dirty 20. She's been here longer than I have been, but nobody who has played with her has anything but nice things to say about her. Those who have played in her games might have some things to say, but it's not about her as a person. It's about, the game and the torture of it. So June 29th is the day of the Airborne Dreamers. Your strengths are lively, fun-loving, and childlike. And your weaknesses are passive and procrastinating, which things will be coming to you shortly. I just had to throw that in there after I saw it. The meditation
Miss doesn't spend her points.
The meditation for this day is, at this moment, someone is flying. Your tarot card is the Priestess, shown seated on her throne, calm and impenetrable. She's a spiritual woman who reveals hidden forces and secrets, empowering us with their knowledge. Yeah, I can't see that at all in the characters that you play.
I'm getting so called out here. Holy shit.
It does seem to be hitting a little bit hard. I think somebody might have lied to Matt Kyle about his birthday. That's my theory.
No.
I'm just joking.
I mean, I would believe it.
He has 3 different birthdays, so.
In addition to the ones that we make up, that's like why we can't get it locked down, right? All right, so June 29th people are filled with visions, and their life's purpose may well be making dreams come true. They have an uncanny ability to find practical application for their fantasies, and in doing so, share them with other people. Those born on this day are also highly sensitive to the desires of others, and like Santa Claus, may be expected to deliver. In this respect, you might have to explain where that laugh came from, because that sounds like a story-worthy laugh. In this respect, they are at once responsible providers and dreamers with their heads in the clouds. Fortunately, any ability to come up with the funds they need to realize the success of their projects is characteristic of those born on this day. June 29th people spend often display a thorough knowledge of technical matters in their given field. They are not overtly verbal people, although eager to share, may find it difficult to communicate their methods to others. The quality they produce, however, is plain for all to see, and they are at ease. And the ease with which they accomplish tasks may earn them a reputation as magicians with their superiors, colleagues, or employees. Is that still hitting pretty hard?
Yeah. There are a couple people in here who have actually worked on a project with me, so they've probably seen some of that happen with me.
Let's see. I'm kind of looking for if there's anything else that really stands out to me. So health advice is that June 29th people are attracted to a wide variety of life experiences and therefore lead generally balanced lives. However, their imagination and empathetic abilities are so highly developed they may take on not only the psychological difficulties of others, but perhaps manifest physical symptoms as well. Such a tendency is most pronounced when those born on this day are involved in codependent or destructive relationships, and in such cases, counseling is invaluable. Wow, it's like giving health advice, and it's like, check that partner, yo.
Holy fuck.
I think they got your ass.
Yeah, I feel like Backhyles. You must have
The,
been.
the,
They
the
must have been
20th
off
was
me.
far more accurate for me than my actual birthday. But in you, yeah, this like the horoscope came out of nowhere with a steel chair and laid your ass out. That's
I'm
Excited to hear
convinced that
Rory's next
Backhouse
tweet,
just had
perhaps.
like I'm just convinced that Backhouse had like, you know, a nurse who like wrote the wrong date down and everybody became convinced after. All right, so let me go ahead and actually introduce us now that we've put Sans on blast. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the Shadow of the Wachtturm. Our producer tonight is one of the moderators of Dirty 20 Gaming, the delightful and compassionate Gloriosa. Our lore master for the series is the beautiful and benevolent Syndra, who I can see is causing chaos in chat. And before we get started, I wanted to give a content warning. While the Spirit of Seven Sea is swashbuckling adventure and shadowy intrigue, the story will deal with mature themes, including death, loss, suicide, and grief. Eisen, our setting, is recovering from a 30-year civil war over religious differences. It may get dark sometimes, and there's no shame in bowing out if it's not a place your head can go at the moment. So without further ado, I'm going to have our savvy swashbucklers introduce themselves, starting with Sarah. Sans, sorry.
Hey y'all, my name is Sarah. I go by Sans on the Discord. I'm on this channel, like everyone said, 5.5 nights a week. And I'm gonna be talking about Monday and our 2 games there. Of Pandora's Gift. I am in Pandora's Gift Nightcast as Clarity Palace, the best healer ever, not a necromancer. And we have. She might become a necromancer next session. We'll see. She hasn't cast any necrotic spells yet. Any necromantic spells yet, I should say. And yes, I play with Rory on the Nightcast, and also Bison and Ren are in the Daycast. So 2 cast, same story, 2 very different parties. As Kevin, our wonderful channel daddy and DM of that game can tell you, it is a lot of fun. Come and watch us. And when I'm not here, I'm over on Tango Productions working with the Scarred Adventurer and Rock Paper Fox on stuff and things that'll come out eventually. Let's give it over to Glory.
Hey everybody, I am Blaze of Gloriosa, also known on this here channel as Glory. I am on this channel. I'm in front of the camera tonight only. That's it. But I am behind the camera several other nights a week. The one that the one that is fun to talk about, that I'm going to talk about, is our Masks a New Generation game, Oracle Force. Again, weird teenage superheroes make bad decisions and then blame each other for them. This is the best description that I could have come up with. We do it on alternate Wednesdays. We just had a session on the 8th, so our next one is not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday. And I can't wait to see what the Teen Disaster Titans come up with. I think we just introduced a new BBG kind of person. So that'll be fun. But kind of,
Maybe the BBEG is the friends we made along the way.
it's the BBEG is the booze. Honestly, it's the booze.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which one person didn't get a hangover, and that was actually pretty great to watch. Anyway, let's see. You can catch me in front of the camera 1 night a week on my own channel, streaming whatever we're gonna stream next, because we finished Graveyard Keeper finally. And then tonight as Honorine. I forgot to update my thing, so it's just Honorine. You can just unmute and yell "cease to cease" still. So that's who we are. Let's go talk to Ren, since that's what Ren said to me a couple sessions ago, and I just kept it.
Hi, I'm Ren. You found me. I am here 4.5 nights a week. But today I'm going to be talking about the Friday game where you can find me as Juliet Fairchild and sometimes producing when I have my PC. Ah. Um. During the Friday game, Kyle uses his wonderful storytelling skills for evil. But we're all where we want to be. It's super fun, super cool, very vivid descriptions. You really get it. And now we're all stuck in a mansion. And some fucking guy is hitting on my girlfriend. Somewhere in the
Agreed,
house,
Mike.
Juliet.
2 X's.
This guy. Somewhere in the house, Juliet's getting really mad. And she doesn't know why. Anyway, and I am here tonight as Renee Ingol's daughter. Yippee, yippee, yippee. I'm gonna pass it on over to the man, whoa. If I could speak at all, I'm gonna pass it on over to Len.
Hi, folks. It's me, Fat Kyle. You'll find me tonight playing Len, but, well, honestly, I'm here to talk about tonight as well. This wonderful game of Seven Seas, where there's not as much buckle swashing as you would have expected, but there is a lot more terrible things and doom all the time. And a lot of it involves politics, which in this day and age really does make it a horror game, too. But one we are all here for every week that we can possibly manage it no matter what, even though it was intended to be a game where people could just drop in and out at any time. And, I think Siosa expected to have, a constant cast, maybe 3 or 4.
This game has us in a chokehold.
Facts. So, we love it. He tortures us. I torture people. We have a whole lot of that going on, not with all of our DMs, but with surprising amount. So that's why I'm announcing that for the Thursday game, I'm bringing badges, whether Sarah likes it or not. Brian, badges new. He's just going to be there now. Suck it.
His name is Brian.
It is now, because, nobody's going to name their kid badges in this day and age. Or do they? Anyway, let's go over to Gav.
Hi, that's me. I am Bison_Stonefist. I am a regular on this channel. Tonight I am playing Gav Big Daddy Fryhoff, the local street tough turned legitimate politician. That's in a world of swashbuckling and sorcery, Gav does neither, and people still love him for it. Tonight I am, because I remembered to fucking introduce my character this week. Because I forgot like 3 times. Anyways, tonight I'm going to talk about Deviant Paradox, the Thursday game run by the lovely Sarah. Deviant Paradox is, I call it our CW show because it's less about the impending evil doom and more about the relationships and the not talking to each other and the secrets and the relationships, and it's all very like Vampire Diaries, but with less high school sex. But in that one, I play Garrett. He is a fly on or wallflower emo kid with the body and soul of Grendel, the bad guy from the first act of Beowulf, living inside him. They're working it out. They've got this weird thing going on. Anyways, despite that, there's an absolute nightmare thing going on. We think we know what we're doing now. I think we finally figured out who the bad guy is. Maybe. I'm sure she'll add another layer to that onion. It's not actually the guy we think it is. But yeah, that's what I do. And yeah, other than that, you can find me on the Discord a lot. I'm often posting memes or stories or just interfering in other people's cast chats. And yeah, I'm going to take it to Rory because they're the last in the list.
Where can we find you otherwise?
Oh, sometimes you can find me on Nate Cat Goldchain Live's channel playing Call of Duty Black Ops 7. I don't do it too often recently because he's got a lot of other guys who get in there before I do, but that's fine. I enjoy making fun of him in the chat.
I think we're Rory now.
Yeah, that's me, everybody. Hello. My name's Rory. I'm coming at you from the land of fucking ridiculous inclement weather, apparently. Like, no joke. Quick aside, no joke. While everyone was doing their introductions, it thundered, dumped a bunch of rain, and is now sunny again. So, there's
Tell
that.
everybody how many floods you've had in the past months too.
I had 3. We've had water come into the basement 3 times. So yeah,
Free
I'm
us.
playing. Free. I play Hans Reifenstahl tonight. Everyone's favorite sprinting, slashing soldier boy of Freebird.
You.
And I'm going to tell all you fine, lovely viewers about the Tuesday game Rise of the Temple, run by the incredible True Shadowmancer, or Shadow. We played a mix of 5e rules, 5.5/2024 rules, and homebrew rules in a world that Shadow has been developing for several decades. Decades. Guys, this is crazy. There's so much lore. There's so much stuff that he's been revealing to us, just like piece by piece as we explore, and little details here and there when we investigate stuff. And it is it's like a Magna Carta's worth of lore in here. I feel like if you've ever seen how thick that motherfucking book is, like there's so much lore in this world, and it's incredible. Tune in on Tuesdays if you love lore. That's the tagline. Tune in if you love lore. And I do some other stuff sometimes that I can't really do because of previously mentioned leaky basement. So that is all. I think that's everybody. So back to you in the studio, Siosa.
I am Siosa, and I was muted. And I am here on Sundays and Sundays only at the moment. I occasionally drop into like a one-shot or short season of something, but unfortunately my schedule is very unpredictable. So this is my one predictable day that I can allot to the gaming, and I love it. I'm going to go ahead and get us rolling because we have some diplomacy to do. So, in the ancient days of Numa, the great storyteller and philosopher Ceres the Wiser once noted that an adventure can only begin in one of 3 ways: by death, by slur, or by letter. To begin without one of these incitements is folly, a debacle best described as an indiscretion, a dalliance, or an escapade. But fear not. We begin tonight properly girded with a letter, the most seductive of the 3, and thus the most powerful. Dearest Honorine, I wish the circumstances of my writing were more jovial, but winter has gripped Fischler lands and an enemy is at my borders. I wish I could write as a would-be suitor, but in these times I must be an Iron Prince, and make request upon you as a member of the council, not as the woman who has made a hard winter more bearable. Logan has recognized Fischler as an ally, and as his ally I ask for his aid. I ask you to bear this message and entreat with your Iron Prince to send all available forces to stop Eric Seeger in his tracks before his ambition consumes Isaac. With deepest regret, Falk Fischler.
Well, we're going to talk to Logan.
And I think this is something that has been discussed that has been discussed with the Iron Prince at the last meeting. But the actual letter is itself, an official request for aid, which means, Logan has every right to send as little or as much as he wants, but having officially recognized Falk as an ally and food and everything like that, I believe he had already been intending to send all due forces with Honorine and Rosa and Len into Fischler lands. And
if I remember
there's
correctly, the only question was like how he wanted, like, that we wanted to ask him if he would be willing to like commit treason. No, if he would be willing to commit his food to like trade it for stuff. Like, I that was like 2 sessions ago, which means it was about 15
it was
years
3
ago.
sessions ago, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so it was like 20 years ago, basically, memory wise. But so I think I was gonna go. Honorine was gonna go talk to Fischler to kind of ask what he's willing to bargain, how he's willing to, how yeah.
Um, and Logan, Logan is sort of she finds him in the like city hall, kind of studying like the map of Eisen. It's just the point where everybody's going to be heading out, and diplomacy is going to determine how a lot of like the course of things shapes up.
I think the first thing she
And
does when she brings the letter to him, like, she doesn't just jump right into business, but she sort of comes up and like kind of touches him on the arm and is like, "How are you?"
he does say, he says, "We have survived a crisis, and now others are at our doorstep." He says, and I recall thinking during my classes at Academy how strange it was that in history there were so many rulers who seemed to face one problem after another, and how hard it must be to live such a life.
And how are you finding it?
He says, "Have you ever felt guilty for being happy?"
I think I know what you mean.
He says, "I find myself there often enough." He says, "Thinking about those who've lost more than me." He says, "And then I see other people in the city celebrating some small victory, and I understand that they are finding the joy that they can, and I realize that I am doing the same."
I've noticed that life, even living under the shadow of history, we have lives that are made up of moments, that are made out of not even days, sometimes hours, sometimes it's just from 1 minute to the next what is happening in front of you, where your hands are at. And even though there may be a plague or a war or an unspeakable otherworldly horror looming over another capital city, we still have moments where our friends are getting married and we're celebrating and we're happy, and all of those things don't go away, but you can't only ever think of those, because life isn't made up of those. Life is just made up of moments. I don't think we're made to be sad all the time or focused all the time.
He nods. He kind of like looks at the letter that she's provided, and he looks at the map. He says, "I am not the strategist. My father is." He says, "But my instinct tells me that if we do not commit ourselves fully to Fischler's aid, we might as well not commit ourselves at all." He says, "We will have to depend on diplomacy to keep us safe from Posen, at least until those battles are resolved. Without Fischler, we would not have survived the winter as we did. We cannot repay his honesty with anything less than every blade that we can spare."
I am very curious to know what what Rosa will come out with when she goes to speak to Königsseeker. What his end game is. What is what is the end for him? What does he hope to accomplish?
I hope she can find that as well.
I don't think he'll tell her, but she may be able to find it out anyway.
She has an insight.
Yes. And he has a weakness for pretty women, so
He kind of smiles. He says, "He had a weakness for my mother." He says, "And it's a weakness that he has never forgiven himself for."
that's depressing. I wonder if he actually had a weakness or if she just showed him something else to focus on.
He's thoughtful for a minute, and he says, "For all the times, rare as they were, that he ever talked about her, I couldn't tell you. I know she pained him like no one has before or since.
Pained him in
No,"
what way?
he says, "I know no battlefield injury left as deep a scar as the one she did on him."
Did she die?
He shakes his head. He says, "No, she seduced him and had me, and tried to levy me into being his bride, or at least enough wealth that she would never be hungry again."
That sounds like a very one-sided part of the story.
Uh, he says he didn't have her executed. He had her banished
Mm.
without a penny to her name, and I never knew what became of her.
So you've never found her?
He says, "I've looked."
But no finding.
He says, "No reunion, no explanation, no answers."
She kind of squeezes his arm again.
He says, "My father never sought another wife." Says, "Never had another child."
Which added such an incredible amount of pressure to you, I'm sure.
He nods. Our relationship was fraught. you've seen some of it play out.
Well, I do know one thing. I don't think he thought that he would ever make you into an Iron Prince, and he was probably right about that, but you were made into one just the same. So you probably proved him wrong, at least on one front.
He says, I am going to go to Gav's, he says, with an armful of diapers, he says, and some food, he says, for the new parents. He says, in hopes that they get an opportunity to eat something and rest. He says, have Wilma disperse funds, he says, to hire every mercenary contract in the city, he says, to accompany our military. He says, I meant it, he says, when I said that we would give them nothing less than our full-throated assistance.
I will let her know. Thank you, Koenig.
And that's going to be something, like, we'll handle that off screen, like, but by the time
Wilma!
forces are marching, by the time forces are marching, it's with the Wachtturm was the largest mercenary company in the city. The others are considerably smaller comparatively, but as a sum, they add about 25,000 troops to the total that's going to war, of highly variable quality.
That's not a small number, though.
They range from, like medium size, but not exactly like tested, to like a small unit of Drexel swordsman that has less than 50 members, but is pretty much legends on the field. So.
Okay.
So, Runa and Hans are getting ready to cast off because they're going by river. With Runa is going to be taking Hans like basically across the border with a very small honor guard, which is the shortest part of the trip, and then heading downriver downriver to a point and then upriver into Wish to get close to the capital before she goes to do her own diplomacy. Is there any last minute preparations people are doing before their departure?
I think Runa is like doing some training with Anna because they're gonna be in a boat for a little bit. Just like brushing up on some skills just in case. Runa's kind of wants Anna to be prepared for anything.
Okay. And there's a brief
Final.
deliberation of if Anna should go with Hans or with Runa, like the rest of the way. But I think Anna, Ingvild simply points out, having both Reifenstalls in Posen's court is not a wise idea.
And are there other people going with Hans?
Yeah,
as you mentioned in the honor guard.
Yeah, there's an honor guard of about 20 or so.
And are all of them going with Hans?
There's an honor guard for Runa as well, but I think her honor guard is kind of a mix of some of the rescued sailors and whatnot. Gris is going with her, but Ingvild does offer to go with Hans as well.
Yeah, he'll accept that. Ingvild would be good to have along.
Oh, sorry, I just remembered that Ingvild looks like Ingvild. Anyway,
that's kind of part of it.
Meaning,
but Runa also looks like Ingvild, so
yeah,
that's fair.
One of them now has an eye patch.
This is true. One of them looks significantly more badass.
Can't be Ingvild. She's wearing an eye patch.
It's the medieval equivalent of like the goofy big glasses with the nose and mustache.
Wearing a disguise, but I can see your face. Not when I do this.
So, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with Hans getting to Posen's court. The first thing I'm going to have you do is make a commander roll to get there.
Yeah. We're traveling a long ways. Okay. Let's end.
It's a travel montage to that Johnny Cash song. I've been everywhere.
29.
Okay. Hans arrives with about half of his entourage. And that's because they're attacked 4 times on the way to Posen's court. Not once by
Damn.
Posen. Okay? Not once by Posen, but by between bandits and, like, I don't want to use the word separatists. They're like seeking independence. They're seeking, like, basically to overthrow the Iron Prince. But like what
Rebels,
he can see
maybe?
straight off is like, yeah, that is exactly the word. Rebels. I've been playing too much Star Wars, so just separatists came to mind.
Fair.
But what he can tell by the time he's arrived is that like they are numerous but not cohesive. They don't have leadership that is anything to scale with the threat that Posen represents. Does that make sense? And
Just
there's
like
a few times where he is witness to battles on
village
the
scale
way,
militias, basically.
many of whom have years of military experience, but they don't have years of experience as like officers who are running logistics, coordinating strategy. They're extremely good at like defending their own village and in like organizing individual battles. But like the difficulties is that she is fighting against her own extremely disciplined, extremely well trained, raised in a military lifestyle troops. And every village is designed to be individually defended as its own fortress. So there is no easily taking ground, and there is no easily like giving ground. They're not organized in the sense that like in the long term, it's almost certain that Posen is going to reclaim her country. Does that make sense? What is also certain is that the death toll by that time is going to be devastating.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, you've got people who are really good at fighting, but used to having the bigger plans made for them, and then you've got people who are really good at fighting and also have the big plan making people,
who also have no new logistic support now. And like the places that made their food, like they're all living off of supplies. Like the biggest thing that like the rebels understand is that if they can just keep Posen's city isolated for a year, they might force her into starvation and surrender by virtue of that.
Yeah.
So if there was any question about whether this rebellion was feigned, it is completely answered by the course of Hans's bloody travel, in which they probably lose like 10 of their like Wachtturm members just getting to Posen's court.
Oh. Jeez.
The other thing that is clear, this is a really just unfortunately named city given our current environment. The city of Incel, capital of Posen.
Yeah. That's rough.
It's where Extreme Mike's from. The crossover, guys.
Incel as a city is I'm just grabbing a number real quick.
Has a disproportionate number of neckbeards.
So for scale, I just want this to kind of like come across that Freiburg is a city of 700,000 people, more or less. Or well, it was 700,000 before the plague, right? It's roughly 600,000 and growing at this point. The nation, this is the capital city of what's pretty much considered to be the most dangerous uh, Iron Prince outside of Freeburg, and their population is 25,000, which
Damn.
would look like a massive city if you had not come from Freeburg. Does that make sense? Because the entire population of Incel could fit inside any of the districts of Freeburg.
Yup. And there's a bit of that moment of like, oh, okay.
And while the walls are impressive and like the organization is effective and like I mean it looks like almost more like a 25,000 strong fortress than a city, and that probably some of that fortressiness is what has limited its growth, because like it's kind of harder to like move giant stone walls when your population fills up to a certain point. They probably send them out to other villages or whatnot, so like the population is static, but as an economic force, Posen's a fraction of
Yeah.
Freeburg.
Tiny place compared to home. Damn.
And the arrival, there's like an arrival of a military procession to like welcome them in. It is clearly seen that like they've sustained some losses along the way. Ingvild is, despite her formidable reputation of her own, she's very easy for the Eisen to overlook because she's a relatively small woman. And when she's not sort of like standing to her full height and commanding attention, she just sort of looks like maybe a advisor or a veteran of some kind, but not necessarily somebody who'd like stand out.
Interesting.
There's and she accompanies Hans within. Inside of Posen's main castle, there is the mounted head of a Draken. Like one of the last Draken that was slain by a Posen monster hunter, and it is over the throne. And next to it is a stone carving of the head of one of the Verschlingen. The actual Verschlingen transformed. But they've created like a sort of artist's version of it, which is kind of all the more humorous because you can tell that like this artist never actually laid eyes on one and is acting purely on description. Hans, having seen one, is like, ballpark? I can get what they're going for.
I figured it out, but it like took me a minute.
Where does the hood come from?
Like, they didn't have any horns.
Yeah.
Apparently, Eisen just don't believe it's a monster if it doesn't have horns. So,
that does track.
And Posen rises from her throne and descends from it to greet Hans as the visiting emissary. There's like kind of like a lot of back and forth of like some things that he remembers as a child, like happening when somebody of suitable station came and visited, and as a matter of rank, Posen is treating him as just less than an Iron Prince himself. Does that make sense? As if he were the heir of an Iron Prince, or as appropriate, like the marshal or like main commander of an Iron Prince. So she is not like slighting him in any way. The only way it can be construed as a slight is if she were to be treating him as if he were the son of the Reifenstall, and that would itself be like cause for question. Does that make sense?
Like that would be kind of crazy.
And it would also mean she would have to like effectively treat him as her superior, which she's not doing in her own court.
Oh yeah.
And there's a question of if she even knows that at this point. However, the thing that Hans is 100% certain of is that there is no part of Posen that is going to be able to tear away from this fight and attack Freeburg anytime soon. Her very survival depends on winning this, and it won't be a quick fight.
Okay.
Which was all unknowns when they set out. So.
Yeah. Already got some good info before we even talked to her.
You just have to make it back without getting killed by rebels.
Yeah. There is that.
And she, after like an appropriate amount of kind of like greeting and everything like that, there's even like, like a small feast and everything for the, and a period of time in which they kind of have to like freshen up and everything like that, like wash their faces, change into something that's less armor and travel clothes, which is a smaller affair, and all of the appropriate sort of like signals are given of like, I'm only going to bring like one other person, so that's going to be the point at which the politics are actually discussed, and
Yeah.
Ingvild is attending along with Hans.
Okay. I think he's keeping the Panzerhand on as a matter of something. I don't know what the matter is, but he's not necessarily making a point of it, but he's keeping it on, mostly for himself, honestly. Just as a thing of note, potentially.
And when she arrives, he can tell she's removed the Draconism that she wears almost everywhere. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that she is keeping on is the sword of the Imperator.
Yeah, reasonable.
As it is particularly a mark of her station as an Iron Prince, as every Iron Prince was given an object from the Imperator to mark their place.
Exactly. A piece of the Imperial regalia.
She says, well, if you'll accept my apologies for the lackluster circumstances under which you are being received.
Accepted, of course, but I would hesitate to say there is not necessarily an apology needed, given the sights I have seen on my way here.
I would have hoped for a quicker answer, but given the sickness that came to your city, I am glad that prudence won out.
It would not be a good look to be potentially transmitting the plague to a neighbor with a contentious relationship, let's call it.
She says, from an utterly pragmatic point of view, a little plague wouldn't hurt right now. She says, the unfortunate circumstances of such things, that we cannot always predict who will be taken, and, well, there's some people I would very much like to be contracting it more than others. And she then very dryly says, did you know my tutor said I had a gift for romantic talk?
Oh. I could detect it off of the letter before I had even opened it. My goodness.
She kind of smiles and she says, you have seen me at diplomacy and you've seen me at war. I don't think there'll be any surprises in the kinds of woman that you would be sharing a bed with were you to accept my offer.
No, I would hesitate to say. I would hesitate to say I know you pretty well, actually. Indeed, no surprises.
She says, one of the things that I have always been blessed with is a excellent memory. My tutor said that I could have been an excellent scholar, but the world in which we live, that was not the talents that were required for posing to survive. One of the detriments of the particular course that I've taken is that it means that I have never forgotten a face that I've taken on a battlefield. And when I saw you in Freiburg, I doubted. I doubted my own memory. I doubted what I believed I had seen, and you made a convincing case that I was mistaken.
A first time for everything, I suppose.
So to assure myself I sent word to the artist who was commissioned portraits by the Reifenstall family.
Mm.
I put a sword through your heart.
Mm-hmm. Even my memory cannot forget that. It is not an
How-
easily forgettable thing.
How are you here?
Oh. Oh, okay. Could not count on my fingers the amount of times I have answered and given a slightly different answer each time. To keep it short and concise, I have no idea.
I am not much a believer in folklore and myth because I have been trained as a monster hunter. She says all of the stories that surround most creatures, they die. You poke them in the right places with the right implements, they die. It's as simple as that. She says, but there are things in Eisen that defy that basic rule.
Oh.
She says, so the
Yeah.
question of greatest concern to me, she says, is that if we are to wed, is some creature going to show up in 9 months and ask for my firstborn?
Yeah, oof. No, certainly not. That is out of the question, to be sure.
She says that you are capable of performing your filial duties.
He has to like stifle a laugh and this is one of the moments where he's like, "Oh, do I say it? Do I just say it?" And he
I mean, he knows
grunts or
firsthand that she made a
something.
pass at Runa, right?
Yeah,
So
he's just not sure
A
when the right
pass?
time is to play that card.
A pass.
Still mad. Hashtag still mad.
Cry about it.
Yeah, that's why the letter was so blunt, is because she used all the romantic prowess on telling Runa why they can't fuck.
Mind you, girl made an assumption. And that's her fault, that's her loss.
But yeah, he like have not had such an opportunity to make assurances on that front. As you know, we have been we have been approached by one catastrophe after another in Fribourg. It leaves little time for
martial drills.
Sure. We'll go with that. Could not think of.
Somebody ask Logan.
I mean,
She says, I'm glad to hear that you haven't sowed some Reifenstall oats in your return to the land of living. She says, God only knows that. She says, Theus only knows the line has been fraught enough.
oh, do not remind me. Oh, if it is of any consolation, I appear to be a normal person at this point.
She says,
They
and
may have seen me with paler skin or more disheveled appearance, but
she says, all the equipment works post dying.
that I can confirm. That much is true.
She says, I understand that there are other things. She said, there are people whose equipment works perfectly fine. They're still not having children. She says, there are all manner of things that only Theus can answer. I understand that. To the best of your assurances, there can be an heir, is my question.
There can be, as far as I am aware, it is possible.
She says, then the rest is just logistics.
Yeah. To put it simply.
She says, "You will not find me a woman prone to romance."
I'm sure that would not be a problem of any particular import,
Um,
given. Shut up! It's a bird screaming right outside my window.
She says, "We do not currently possess the military resources we could have offered a few months ago." She says, "But in time they will be rebuilt." She says, "And I will be as valuable an ally as I ever have been." She says, "So my offer still stands."
Let us, for a moment, think of a potential future, if you will entertain me. There are uncertainties as to how exactly this potential future could be attained, but we, as allies and a union, let us say, come across an opportunity for a large change to the nation, one which we have been seeing in Freiburg. We've been seeing play out in Freiburg over the last few months. Systemic changings of ranks, changings of title or responsibility. I do not wish to make any imprudent assumptions, but there is I believe there is a fundamental point of contention that could come up in this potential future, and that is that of the way of things, the manner in which we as a nation conduct ourselves, and the manner in which we as a nation remain divided yet warring, or potential for a greater union under, let us say a council, perhaps. Where would you land in such a future?
She says, "You're talking about a council in replacement of an imperator."
That is one
She
option.
says, "As a permanent institution instead of a temporary one."
This hypothetical does not go that far out quite yet. But as a matter of a change within our lifetimes.
It is impossible to have peace while one neighbor sleeps soundly and eats well, and another starves and sleeps in the mud. That basic truth has been true since the most ancient days of Numa. She
To be
says,
sure.
"So if one neighbor has prosperity and those across their borders starve, there will be bloodshed. There will be war."
And things will go right back to the way they are now.
She nods.
Precisely.
So making plans for such a hypothetical future means very little unless those with the power and the wealth are willing to give it up. And I
In
have
that
not
case,
seen many who have been born with it willing to do so.
That much is true.
She says, I am not afraid of being deposed. Says, I am not afraid of losing my lands. She says, because I know with the skills that I have and the mind that I possess, I could take land somewhere. I could rebuild somewhere. It might cost me years of my life to do so. But I have a skill set that is never going out of style.
Indeed. Then allow me to be more direct. If I were to impose the question upon you of, are you willing now to not throw it all away, but you understand my meaning, to remove oneself alongside myself from positions we currently hold in favor of ushering in a change, a large change for the good of the people, the good of the masses that live here as a whole. Without any guarantees, of this being successful, as I know there are many who would despise such an idea and call it. Many would say it spits in the face of this nation as a whole. Would you join me in that? Whether it means taking a advisory role or assisting with the ushering into this new system, or whether it means running off to live in a small cabin in the mountains and say fuck you to all of the people who would come and try to find us and reinstitute the old ways. Because there's a possibility of any of those happening, if we are willing to take a risk for the people of this nation as a whole.
He says, my family is one of the oldest in all of Eisen.
Mm-hmm.
Since the Newman emperors were first thrown back from Eisen's borders, there has been opposing, fighting for its independence and fighting for its freedom. And then fighting to expand its borders. I could not abandon the legacy of my house. But I also understand that times change. It says, in any world which came to exist, the legacy of my house cannot disappear. I owe that to those who've come before me. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I would say so. If only to add one thing. As I return to my home to make preparations for whatever we must do next, to mull over what we have discussed here, and to respond to you in one manner or another, I would only ask you reflect on this legacy and perhaps plan for what you would like it to mean in the future. Because, as you say, times change. I, for one, believe we're on the cusp of a great changing of the times. I believe to ignore it would be as foolhardy as to leave things the way they are.
There's a philosopher. You'd have to ask Logan Seeger which one, which stated that hard times make hard men, and soft times make soft men, but that it is the goal of those hard men to make soft times for their children.
Indeed.
She says, I understand, I think, that what you are hoping for is to make better life and a better time for those who will come after you.
For all. Those who are living deserve a break as well. Those who yet live will inherit whatever we create. If we create a monster, those who succeed us will inherit a monster. If we create a union, a paradise is an optimistic word, but if we are to create something better, something peaceful for once in our history, if we are to create something peaceful, even for a time.
I don't think it's in our people's nature to be able to live with peace. And maps, that is just the experience of my life talking. I grew up amidst war. It's all I've known all my life. Says, and trying to imagine a world without it. My instinct is to laugh at the idea that it's possible.
Oh, well, many say one cannot teach an old dog new tricks, but here we are, veterans of bloodshed and a life of war and anger and agony, discussing even the possibility of something better.
A word of advice says you perhaps shouldn't call the person who might become your bride an old dog. And then she laughs, like she is proud as a hubris, but she knows that wasn't the intent of it, and she's not going to twist words to make it that way.
No, he chuckles along with her. That was funny. Props to Posen, that was funny.
She says, so your answer is that you are considering, but that you don't have an answer yet.
Indeed. I wanted to discuss with you in person. It feels impersonal to reply to a summons or a letter like that with a simple, please wait until I make a decision. Especially in the times we find ourselves in now.
She says, indeed. She says war's on the horizon.
No?
This is very soon, if not days away.
As it always is.
Says, in truth, just as I'm a little surprised to see you here at all, given the state of things beyond my borders.
Well, as I've said, I believe times are changing. And I believe it is worth it to be on perhaps the forefront such a change than to lie in wait for what may seem inevitable. There is nothing that is truly written in stone. Not even in a place such as Eisen. Well, and really, yeah, I have died once supporting the system that has taken much from me, including my life, it would be a fool's errand of me to use my second chance to continue the cycle. One does not receive such an opportunity for no reason. By no means am I, saying that I am special for some reason. It's just a matter of right place and right time.
I think the people who are special are just those who have earned Theus's sense of humor.
Perhaps.
She says, you are here, and your armies are marching south. I am not much interested in being your bride, should you not have a city to call your own. Says, so I make an offer. She says, as a show of good faith, she says that my intentions are sincere. She says, and not a promise, she says, or anything implicit on your part other than that you will take my offer seriously. She kind of she looks to the person that's with her, who's he has a winged helmet under his arm, which Hans knows because the winged cursars were the ones that she was leading when she wrote him down. They are also the most feared military unit in Eisen. Does that make sense? She says right now in Posen, she says cavalry are not much use. But in the battle before Freiburg, they might make a great difference. They're a small number, she says, but they're very skilled at what they do. She says, and I will send you with them. She says, because they are the only unit likely fast enough to catch a battle before it breaks out. She says, that's my gift. Says, when we speak again, I do expect an answer.
It is only proper. Drama die for Posen.
And the commander of the Cursars bows his head and he says, we are ready to ride when you are.
He salutes him and let us depart for the moment.
Yeah, and they take him out and bring him to a armored horse for himself and Ingvild. The rest of the Wachtturm, they don't have horses enough for all of them, so they're going to be getting protection on their way back to Freiburg. So they're going to be going with a unit that will take their well-being very, very seriously. So, but I'm going to cut there. Oh wow, we're already an hour and 13 in. So I did say this was going to be a lengthier bits of downtimes. So let's cut over to Bruna. She had been sent to Von Wish with the understanding of that, see if there was an alliance to be secured and also to just sort of see the state of things. Unlike with Posen, they sent word in advance, by letter and stuff like that, as to when it's going to be arriving, because unlike Posen, they had no reason to suspect there might be any kind of trap or trickery or military problems. And Greta, who had been the one that they met with, I think it was Greta that they met with last time.
I think it was Griselda.
Griselda, yeah, I think, who showed up on behalf of Von Wish. Griselda looks as though she has aged like 5 years in the months since you've seen her. But she's actually there at like the small little town that like Rona makes port in the Revenge. And it's like maybe a half day's ride up to Siegsburg. Siegsburg itself is sort of like the opposite of Incel in that it's like the walls look like nobody has been doing maintenance on them in a decade or two. And the population is only 10,000, which means like you could fit 10 of this town into Feinhardt. Does that make sense?
Tiny. Got it.
It is built largely as sort of like so Wish is along the Drakensbergs, and it is one of the largest like mining provinces of all of them. And the first thing that Runa like can think upon seeing all of it is it looks a lot like staring at despair if they all had houses. Does that make sense? One out of every 3 people she's seeing is a Wasson. And everybody that's there is like stretched thin, just trying to take care of them. And like the palace itself looks like it's falling down. The guardsmen are like few and far between, and they look starved almost. Does that make sense? Like it looks like they've been skipping 2 out of 3 meals a day for who knows how long.
Like she's looking around and is like she's thinking about it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Freeburg is not rich with food.
They're doing okay at the moment. They have food from Fischler. There are a decent amount of like surrounding farmlands and stuff like that. Not enough to support the population without a lot of trade coming in. But like right now, the city is doing fairly well economically. It's also spring, so like there's going to be a harvest coming in summer. There's going to be a harvest. There's a small harvest of like a few things that you can get growing through the winter. I think you can usually get some carrots to come up in the first like months of spring. And this is the kind of so like Freiburg has enough food that they could probably at least do some serious relief here. But no, they're not like rolling in it, but it can be acquired at a fair and reasonable price there. And given that it's a relatively short sale, let me put it this way: she could buy food in Freiburg and sell it in Vish at like a 5% markup. You know what I mean? And it would dramatically improve the quality of life here, and she'd make a fortune. Like all without like even trying to be greedy about it, like just trying to cover costs.
I think more in her mind, she's like noting it as like these people need aid. This can also help with the conversation they're gonna have. And like she just sees people that need help.
And Griselda Griselda is also visibly pregnant at this point, like 8 or 9 months along. And they get into the palace. There's there is it's not like dust or anything. It's just sort of like a level of decay to everything that almost everything kind of looks like chipped or scratched, like things that would normally just be immediately replaced in an Iron Prince's household. They're just continuing to use, which would be fine if they were peasants. Like that's completely normal. You don't like throw out a chair because one leg gets dinged up, but an Iron Prince certainly does. And the entire palace sort of like has that feeling. And the meal that's kind of being prepared, Anna is looking around it like it feels very familiar to her to how Heelgren's palace was at the time of like the rescue. And there are definitely like large places where it looks like paintings once hung that are now gone. And other valuables have just sort of like left a ring of something was here on walls and on dressers. She says, I hope your trip was uneventful.
It was, thankfully.
She
Assuming
says,
it was, you didn't mention anything.
no, she didn't have any problems. She says there's been a few small mercenary companies that have turned to banditry, but she says it's a relief.
Indeed.
And go ahead and give me a quick roll of the noble skill with her wits if she has it. She's reading it. Actually, this is not actually directly a
Why would
noble.
Runa have noble?
I mean, she is technically a noble.
Something to buy later.
That's fine. Just a wits roll is fine.
Okay. Can I use sailor in place of noble?
No.
And you know what? That's rare. Sometimes you just gotta throw it out there. 25.
Okay. So even without having the skill, she can tell that like there is a lot more that Gazella is hesitant to say.
You have words on your tongue.
She says it's a little bit of an oversimplification to say that the mercenaries have turned to banditry. She says the truth is that the mercenaries have turned to accepting a contract, she says, and they are seeking to remove enough of the guard that their leader can peacefully assume control of Vish. Peacefully in the sense of a minimum of bloodshed. What trade we could have has largely been choked off by them. And it is my brother who is paying their fees.
Would you I may be able to find a way that we can help with that.
I would be interested in it.
Well,
And
I see it simply. We take their money at its source. Then who are they working for? What do they gain to benefit?
She says, how do you mean?
Once they're no longer being paid.
I mean, how is it you intend to take my brother's money from him?
Well, there are ways to take. Maybe not his money necessarily, but that solution isn't the most ideal.
She says, I want to see him in jail for what he's done, but not dead. He thinks he is doing what is best for Vish. And by a certain logic, I understand it. Von Wish is not ruling any longer. She kind of gestures for like Runa to like rise and follow. As she gets up from the table, like a meal hasn't been served yet, like it's still kind of in preparation. And she takes Runa into the throne room, in which, for the very first time, she's seeing Von Wish. And he's a man that was like once noted for his like wiseness and his restraint. His hands are completely bandaged, and yet he's frequently like kind of, his fingers have continually like ground through the bandages, and the throne that he sits on has dried blood that's run down the arms of both parts of the throne from the number of times he's like basically ground down his own fingers to the point where they're bleeding down the arms. He's dressed, he's cared for. It's very clear that like years after he became a Wasson, his people still care for him to such a degree that they're making sure that he eats, he's dressed well, but like the sign of his anguish is in his hands and what they've done to the throne. And she can see as he's sitting there without reacting, without moving, the way he's still sort of like continually destroying himself in the smallest way that he can.
Being here has just made Runa's desire to find a cure for Wasson, like the desire is so much stronger now.
And
like she's seeing it on a wider scale than just in Freeburg too.
Yeah. And I believe this was the case, but Runa was the one who met with Gisela before, right?
No,
Like
that was Gav.
okay.
I met with Heelgrund and then Posen.
Says there has been aid sent to us by the council already, because I remember Gav had arranged that like what they could do, they were going to. Says, and it has helped us survive the winter. She says, but after we returned from the meeting, she says, I did something very foolish.
Which was?
And she touches her belly, and she says, I made sure that Von Wish would have an heir.
And until that heir's of age, what's the plan till then?
I didn't think things that far through.
The idea was a good one in theory, but in practice.
She says, I was betrothed to his oldest son before his oldest son went to war. It felt like my obligation. And like she's saying it in a way that like it's clear that like this is not some weird fetishized Do you know what I mean? Saying that, like,
Mhm.
this is the twisted sense of her obligation for her role. Does that make sense? And there's a whole lot of ways it can be condemned, and she's aware of them. She doesn't feel great about any of it.
But it must be hard to feel that big of a responsibility that you would do this.
She nods.
I'm sure you may be aware, came seeking aid. If we are to get that, it would be mutual.
She says, whatever aid we could offer you. She says, it wouldn't be tomorrow. It wouldn't be next season. It wouldn't be the season after that.
Um, Eric Seeger plans to take what he can. Freeburg's on his list. We are searching for any help that we can get in this. Though, with your guards being picked off, I don't know how many people you'd have to offer.
She says, my brother will not take my life. She says, and with the child in me that is in me, he will understand that any power he seizes will be a regency. She says, I can surrender Vish to him. And that may be the only play at this point.
What would that mean for Vish?
It would mean that his mercenaries would become the new guard. And the guard that are here, she says, I need to summon their commander. And she does so. Like, there's kind of a very quiet, like, meal and everything in like the meantime. The guard commander, like, he is the skinniest guard commander that Runa has ever seen, and he does not look like he has been that way his entire life. It looks like for every meal that his guardsmen have skipped, he's skipped two. He looks to be like in his 50s or so, and she kind of explains the situation as she sees it, and he says, there are options here, my lady. And he says, if Freeburg will promise food and support to Von Wish, its guards will go and fight, and you may command us for a year, so long as in kind Wish and Siegberg are fed. Which, given like the state of things here, doesn't look like it would be a massive strain on their resources. He says, our numbers are small. He says, there are 5,000 of us to be commanded. He says, if we draw from every corner of Vish, we can aid you. He says, there are also the resources that we had to trade that we cannot while Vish is plagued by mercenaries. Iron is extremely heavy and difficult to move, but we have an abundance of it. He says it will be put to better use in Freeburg's forges. Pay us fair rates for these, he says, and it may begin to restore some of Vish's fortunes.
Well, I don't have all the power. I believe that can be arranged.
He says, I have heard of the council from a province away. He says, I've heard of the good that they've done for Freiburg. He says, I've heard that Freiburg survived the White Plague as miraculously as a city could be imagined to. I am willing to accept your word that it will be done, even if you cannot formally promise it without the approval of your Iron Prince.
I don't believe he will have any problem with it.
And-
Logan Seeger is I knew what word I was going to say. Hello? The brain turned off.
Honorable, reliable.
Honorable is close, I feel like is close enough to what I was going to say.
Sure.
Logan Seeger is an honorable man.
Says, I will call for the assembly of the guard. We have no standing army beyond the guard. We must trust that. And she looks to Griselda. We must trust that your brother can maintain control of the mercenaries that he's hired. And Griselda nods. Like, her face is pale. She's aware that, like, the surrender of this it's all a very high stakes game for them, but they are very much with their backs to a wall.
Runa is sliding the food she has to their commander.
He kind of smiles. He says, honestly, he says, I think half my men, he says, might be willing to fight for the promise of 3 square meals a day.
I don't need the food as much as it looks like you do.
He kind of smiles. He says, it's not so much a matter of skipped meals, he says, it's the ulcers that keep me this. And he gestures to himself.
I may be able to tend to you.
He says, I've tried a few apothecaries, agents. If you have some skill as a doctor.
You can see what
And
I
you
can
can
do.
make like a medicine roll first if you want to see if there's like more conventional treatments.
That's with wits, yes.
Yes.
39.
Okay. So first off, she knows a few conventional treatments that are just going to kind of help with like what is causing his ulcers, the enormous amount of stress that he's under, because he's compassionate enough that he feels for these people, and like it's awful here. But beyond that, if she wants to spend her dramatic to take basically his current wounds, like the ulcers will ultimately kind of like reassert themselves until the cause of them is treated. But she can make him like not be in pain for the moment.
Do you know who she is? Yeah, she's doing that.
Yeah, I'm just double checking. and like afterwards, like even Griselda seems to kind of take some heart at like the vehemence with which he eats, and like they bring out like some food for her and stuff like that, although she's definitely not like she's not feeling the hungriest at the moment, having just absorbed his pain from that. But she's still the guest, so they still have some food in front of her. And Griselda is like, I will go to my brother and negotiate the surrender after the guard have prepared to depart Vish. I don't want him to command them to return.
As soon as I can, I will talk to Koenig Seeger and arrange aid for Vish.
Oh yeah.
Also, how many wounds am I taking?
Just one.
Just
It's
what? Right. I forgot I can only take one dramatic wound at a time.
Yeah. Well, and he doesn't have multiple dramatic wounds from it.
Cool.
And I'm using a dramatic wound to represent the amount of pain that he's in, but I don't think it actually should be called a dramatic wound. It's the manifestation of a disease. But since disease and poison and such are things that she can take, it's fine. So I'm going to cut from there to the group of Len and Rosa and Honorine all riding through Heelgren lands into Fischler lands. Heelgren lands are pretty wild because there's like an area that is around Freiburg that has really started to sort of like return to a sense of normalcy. And then you get beyond it and it feels a bit more like the Wild West. And if they weren't traveling with the entire fucking army of Freiburg, they might have some problems. But after a while, when it's clear that, you know, like there isn't anybody dumb enough to try to like get in the way of an army as large as theirs, the older commander of the Wakund, the secondary commander after Hans, he says, we have scouts traveling in every direction, and he's addressing like all three members of the council. He says they've spotted a number of small groups of bandits and troublemakers. He says we have the resources that we could send some of our horseback units to go disperse them a little bit more. Maybe give the townsfolk around here a better year to come.
Do it.
I agree. We also want to make sure that they're not grouping up to try and hit our supply trains once we're in Fischler lands.
Grazie.
He says it might not be a bad idea for us to establish a few outposts along the road that we're taking, just to make sure that our resupply is not far from us. And that would certainly bring a measure of order and safety to the towns, at least along the route.
Yeah, I would support that as well.
And it's going to cost what is a relatively minimal number of troops to keep them manned, you know what I'm saying? Because you can put like 20 people in an outpost, and that's going to be more than enough for most medium-sized bandit groups. So
Make sure they have a way of communicating quickly so that if something larger hits, we know about it.
yeah, for the most part, they will make sure to like be close enough that they could see each other with like signal fires and stuff, so they can send a message that way.
Send a message by semaphore.
One dude up there with flags. Help us, please.
Well, and the idea is that if there is a larger size bandit force, it's not that the 20 men are necessarily enough to push it back as the 100 or so that can be there within an hour or two. So,
yep, they can fold in pretty effectively.
Yeah. And the passage into Fischler lands is once again like a complete kind of tonal shift, because the Fischler lands are they're some of the most productive and healthy you've seen in all of Eisen in all of your travels. Like the people are just sort of like left to do their own shit and pay their taxes, and it works really fucking well. And then they've got militias that like deal with problems when those problems come up. And because Fischler isn't trying to maintain a massive army, like that every town that you pass looks just incredibly productive compared to places you've been in Heelgrund. The things like Len has seen when flying around in Posen, you know, the stories that you've heard about Vish. It's like when there's a competent Iron Prince in charge who doesn't have ambitions of becoming the next Riefenstahl, this system works just fine.
Yeah.
Like
all that ambition.
the towns that you pass, like there's like regular meals that are being offered of like fish and bread and like a variety of different foodstuffs. It's not just like here's the one thing we've all been subsisting on, because everything else is going to the Iron Prince's armies. And like they're so
Jesus Christ. Sorry. We are apparently getting a dust storm.
Oh, yes,
I-
yes, we are.
and not
Sorry.
only that, but like they have enough of like a surplus of like pickled foods and stuff left over from the winter that they're like not super keen on eating anymore because they've been eating them for 3 months. That they're excited to sell because the amount of money they can get selling all of their excess food to the army passing through is going to be enough to like buy new shoes for everybody in the village or whatever is like sort of like the next big expenditure that they have to do. It's relatively easy to negotiate, you know, sizable like 10-15% discounts because you're buying in such bulk.
Yep.
That it just easily, like there's no need to like stop and forage or anything like that as you normally would have to. It's very easy to buy enough food to get through to the next area.
Yep. And we're absolutely doing that in part so we can lay away for the additional forces that we're sure are going to be joining us, and to make sure we know where all this food is in case Seeger gets a pretty deep probe anywhere into the lands.
Yeah. There's also like the armies are not used to on the march getting to have eggs and cheese. So like morale is real good.
Yeah, omelette du fromage. Everybody loves it.
Seafer is the capital, and it is passed through relatively quickly because Fischler is established like as being on the southern border. He's been with his troops all winter.
Which tracks for the kind of guy he is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they're pausing to like take in the scenery. I think they're gonna get through it as quickly as they can.
Yep.
No, they
yeah.
it's like a town that, you know, when you're moving with an entire army, you're like just passing around it. You know what I'm saying?
Are Rosa and Len going back to their fake accents, or are they done with those for good?
Rosa's picked hers back up as we're on the road, especially around military personnel.
Okay.
She's making sure that she looks as dumb as possible sometimes.
Len is not readapting his fake accent, and he's pretty much just at this point being Len, in part because he's going to be leaving once this is established, because he's got to go to Asura.
No, Rosa, that one's the circle. You're looking for the square.
there
It
Vodachi?
goes in the square hole.
there is a certain, so the Wakhund have a certain amount of like Vadachi troops that are amongst them. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Who after like the first day on the road or in Fischler lands are basically told like you guys don't go into towns because the reaction they get is hostile. Rosa as a Vadachi woman is fine, but they quickly kind of get like the realization that like Seeger has been sending Vadachi to infiltrate the towns and stuff that they've come through, with sort of the assumption that like they can all pass as an Eisen. Does that make sense? They can't. They're not good at it. What did we draw?
Justice and the High Priestess just dropped out at that. I was like, okay, yay.
So they're not great at like faking it, and he's also sending them to infiltrate towns where people grow up knowing everyone around them their entire lives. And somebody kind of like tries to come in and is like, "Oh, I'm from down the road," and they're like, "No, you're not," because we know everybody in that town too. So
I grew up with, Sven. Sven.
yeah,
Sven.
except in like a very like bad Eisen accent on top of it, you know. So like everybody in Fischler is kind of speaking like pastoral German, and like they sound much more kind of like New Reich in the accent that they're emulating.
It's the exact opposite of that scene from Inglorious Bastards. Grazie.
And like the response from the villagers has been to beat the shit out of them and send them back to Seeger. But it's
As
kind
well
of
they
taken
should.
on
I love
it's kind
it.
of taken a like distrust of Adachi to a new level. Does that make sense? Again, Rose is fine because she's female, and nobody's been sending female Adachi anywhere.
They should. It's unlike female Vadachi can like wreck some shit.
It's okay. Just discount us. We know.
The in getting to the border to Tannen, which is where the majority of the defense is going to be planned. First off, I wanted to point out, since I've been talking about the populations of all these towns, Seafer, which is the capital, is 50,000 people, twice as large as Posen's capital. Okay, and there's a second additional town of Tannen, which has 30,000 people as well. So, like, both of the two cities that he has, his relatively new territories, have larger populations than her capital.
Important to know, just in case.
It's just kind of important from the perspective of all of Posen's economy is optimized for her military.
And now the growing food, lots of food.
And they're kind of like, well, we've got militias. That's good enough, right?
Yeah. Balance to be struck, but or you can just have enough so much food you can bribe other, Iron Princes to send their dudes to fight for you.
And the arrival of the entire ass army, definitely like noted by Fischler and all of his people, they have a far larger like standing militia than anybody expected them to have. There is fully like 140,000 men that have been gathered and are ready to fight that are along this border, and it's expected that that's to be a comparable number against Seeger's Vadachi forces.
Yeah, but the problem is a lot of them are just militia and not professional soldiers. Militia and conscripts tend to break upon the shores of established, skilled, and well-equipped soldiers, especially if they have a
Professional
lot
soldiers
of
are professionals.
Yeah.
The American Revolution called. They would like you to take that back.
I ain't taking shit back.
Because
I'm just saying, people who know their own lands and are defending their own homes, I wouldn't discount them.
I'm not entirely discounting them, but they're not at the same level.
One of the things that is also true about this is that one of the things that's been a major game changer in the American Revolution was guns. And that the normal kind of like idea that like militia forces just never stand up to an established military, that balance of power changed a whole lot when guns became a factor. Now, cannons are still a big deal. And that is one of the major problems that Fischler forces have, is that they don't have a lot of cannons, and nobody knows exactly how many Seeger has, but they do know that he has them, as well as some other experimental weapons that were seen in the Black Forest when Henri saw what she saw.
Oh yeah, the flamethrowers. Those are gonna suck.
Mine's bigger.
Tell Seeger that.
Tell him exactly that.
Fischler's forces have been busy building trenches and fortifications and barricades, with the knowledge that Seeger is able to move his forces, but after a certain point, he's going to have to come through this area. And so they've been building pretty much, like, it's not a wall, it's ditches and stockades and all that kind of stuff, but it is something that gives them cover while they're firing. It gives them some protection from things like mortars, and they have the advantage of they're not trying to push into Seeger's lands, so they don't have to prepare for the possibility of like mounting an invasion. They have to wait for Seeger to attack. But they have the downside of Fischler does not have any command experience in a battle. Seeger has fuckload.
Did we bring anybody with us that has
You have
command?
you have the entire Wachtturm with you.
Yeah, we have the
Okay.
might of the entire like fighting force.
All right, so we're probably going to have to disperse the Wachoons among these militia groups to give them some backbone and structure.
I think Unreen's gonna kind of grab the second in command or whatever of the Wachtund and
Volker, I just shared him.
go and find him. And go and find Fischler if she can.
And Volker has like his most dominating features. He has a really magnificent mustache. Like I couldn't quite get it for the Hero Forge, but it's like the kind that like sticks out like past both of his cheeks, and has been waxed into like iron position to like almost never move from that.
A Guy Bontemps mustache.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
For the I was,
Yes.
I was just about to say for the old hats.
It's one of Kevin's characters, so
yeah.
just imagine one
Okay.
of Kevin's characters with a mustache, and you know what
Mhm.
kind.
And I assume Len and Rosa are both going to meet with Fischler as well, because
Yeah.
they're after going into Seeger lands.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
She's gonna, if they're not going with her to find Fischler, then she's gonna like give Rosa like the biggest hug ever.
No, we're going.
Okay.
We said we're going to go with to at least say hi
Oh,
and check in
okay.
before we
I
go
thought
on.
you were like, nope, we're out, and I'm like, okay, bye.
Good
No,
fucking luck.
And
She's gonna give
Fischler
Len a hug too.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh. Well,
And-
that'll
No,
come
she's
after
not.
Fischler, but
No, she is not.
Fischler is like, he doesn't sure if like the appropriate greeting for Honorine is like squeezing her hand or giving her a hug or kissing her hand. So there's like a fairly awkward moment where it seems like he might try to do like all three.
I think she's just gonna just give him the kiss on both cheeks, like kind of clasp his hands and give him the kiss on both cheeks.
Yeah, and he's sort of like, welcome to Fish, and as she like, you know, kisses on both cheeks, he just kind of like
Thank you. I'm
"It's so good
excited
see you."
to see it.
And
It's a
and
beautiful
he blushes.
land.
Says, did you get to see a lovely lake on your way here?
I saw it in passing while we were riding with troops.
She's heard no less than like 6 different ghost stories about the Scatman man like eating people fishing on that lake.
Is it even the Black Forest doesn't even touch it?
She's still heard the stories.
Black Forest, not Black Forest. Black Forest, not Black Forest.
look, everybody needs a vacation, and sometimes he takes a break at the lake and eats the locals.
The locals.
It's-
For a snack.
yeah, the
For
local
morale.
cuisine, you know?
As a treat.
They're high in
Um,
fiber.
Sunbathing too.
And you know, Fischler starts kind of like introducing the people that are there, like his various like military members, with what experience that they have. The other person that is with him is a woman that looks old enough to be like Fischler's mother, and has the same. Okay, so none of you grew up in Eisen. But you've certainly seen it, where there's a certain mannerism for Eisen mothers that
She's got mama
inspires them to become soldiers and good, obedient soldiers. And she has that vibe in spades. And she's kind of like she's watching Franziska, or her name is Franziska, and she's watching Fischler very carefully. She's also watching Honorine super closely, um, as Honorine is at this point known to be sort of the most likely candidate at this point to become a Fischler.
War mom scrutinizing.
And you know, in the midst of this scrutiny, Volker kind of, like leans towards Rosa and like looks at Franziska. He's like, "Who is that lovely creature?"
I must meet her.
Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match.
Can you introduce us?
Huge Tormund vibes from Game of Thrones.
It's the big woman here.
And Franziska is like in her 40s. She's like past childbearing age, but Volker's like in his 60s. You know what I'm saying? Like,
He does like him a younger woman.
She's in her 40s. Well, I hope she'll be able to keep up. You know.
how nubile. You know?
And Honorine is like kind of linking her arm with Fischler, and kind of like, let me introduce you to the commander, second in command, or whatever. Is Volker the commander now that they're on the road and it's Han not?
No, he's still the second in command. It's Hans's Wachtturm.
Okay.
So you'd be acting commander?
What is his rank?
Yeah, acting commander is
title?
appropriate.
Okay, acting commander, sure. Let me introduce you to acting commander, dude, guy, with mustache.
Voldemort.
Voldemort. Yeah. Let me.
Volker Mueller.
I keep throwing everything to the back.
And she gives him a nod, like in a very unimpressed look, and like, pleasure. And he immediately like smiles. He says, "Perhaps you could offer me a tour of the emplacements, the fortifications, the soldiers in their current arrangements. I might have some suggestions of value." Oh, look, the sun is near to setting.
Bro.
Draws her out of the tent.
And like, I can picture honoring Rosa and Len just sort of like, never seen him act like that before. That's new.
And she looks like very sort of like, what is happening? Like, especially like when her arm kind of gets put into his, like in an escort kind of thing. Like, nobody has looked at her in that way in a while. You know what I'm saying? And she's like kind of looking back at Fischler like, is it okay for me to go? Do I even want to go? I don't even think I like him.
Probably like, Mom, get your own life again. Go.
It'll be good for you.
I'm just glad you're seeing other people now.
And Fischler is, for his part, just sort of like, he's very happy to see Honorine. He kind of quickly goes into like what they know. Seeger has been he's been very good at making sure that their scouts are not getting much information at all. Like, those who risk too much usually don't return. So it tends to be scouts who can gather information from a distance without being noticed, and even then they don't dare go too close because Seeger forces are real good at finding scouts.
Good with arrows.
And if the stereotypes about the two nations are to be believed, Vodacce are just stealthier by nature than Eisen are. It's much culturally like more part of
they're usually good at dodging too.
They're very, very sneaky.
And Fischler is happy to like, he's the only Iron Prince, you think, in the entire nation who cooks for his own guests. But that's exactly what he does. Like, he has a barbecue going. He gets like some buttered fish and is like grilling it for everybody that's there.
This man
Yeah.
is so wholesome.
And he's like serving everybody, kind of catching up with them. He's like, if Honorine was back in Charus, like, and this was her suitor, she probably would have found him mortifying. You know what I'm saying? But here he's just, he's happy for like the reprieve of getting some friends. He's grateful that like his call for allies has been taken seriously, and like the arrival of the Wakun significantly changes the balance in that there is now not just like a militia force aided by a small like actual professional army. There is now a sizable professional army aided by a militia force, and that changes things quite a bit.
Changes
It,
the dynamic entirely.
and the reality, as everybody understands it, is that while the Vadachi forces have faced Heinzel's forces, they have not yet faced a serious, equitable threat on the battlefield. They have always had the advantages of numbers, training, of equipment, and this is going to be the first time that they're in a fight that is a proper battle, and not just one side running over another.
I think Honorine's going to sort of sit with him while he's cooking and kind of ask him what they found out. Like, what do they know? Like, do they have any idea of what Seeger's end game is? Like, have they had any communication from Seeger? I think she's going to mention like
He did offer us a chance to surrender.
Of course he did. Puffed up stuff shirt. I think she's going to mention like Rosa and Len are going to be riding on to Seeger to speak with him and try to get an idea.
It is probably a reflection of the way that Falk has only really seen Honorine in certain sort of date-like circumstances, that when she kind of grumbles and goes on a near swearing kind of tear about Seeger, Falk looks just genuinely surprised. Whereas I think most people who are more familiar with Honorine in the city are sort of like used to her colorful language and temperament.
And I don't think she like actually swore, because I was literally trying to think of words that were not like full of himself prick. But like
I think it was more just the invective behind them of like that bastard, even if she's not saying bastard.
Yeah.
It's still more than he's seen in the way of like venom from her at all.
The mood is definitely there. She thinks he's very selfish. And full of himself. Anyway.
And he looks to Rosa and Len. He says, if you're going to entreat with Seeger, he has been honorable. He says, with every diplomat and messenger coming under a flag of parley, he has not violated the rules of war.
She wouldn't be going if he hadn't.
And I don't think he will. I think even if he has lost everything, I think he would rather die honorably than live a coward. He seems the sort.
Some part of me, he says, wonders if he's just an old war dog who wants to die with his boots on.
We can make that happen.
We can. And
says it will cost a lot of people their lives for his pride.
Wouldn't be the first time in the history of this country, and it won't be the last, I'm sure.
No, but it's the first time it's mocked people.
Yeah.
The first thing that he did when he sort of started to move his army was take the cease to cease lands back.
He says, is your family well?
I'm pretty sure
I-
they're quietly running a quarter of Freeburg right now.
I appreciate that because he didn't actually like kill anybody when he did that, right? Like, I mean, I think he killed like
no,
any
actually,
guards.
they were allowed to porte away.
Yeah, like I don't even think he killed any of the resistance they put up. He was just like, "You're surrounded. You could fight, but you're surrounded." And I
There
think
were like a few people that definitely sort of like have at you anyway, even though they're outnumbered, trying to do like the brave thing, and like his more seasoned troops basically like hit them so hard
Bonk.
they stayed down, right? But
just
it
like
wasn't
pistol
like
whipped up.
running. Yeah, basically, it was usually like a spear across the face, and like there's like 10 of us, and we're not going to be dueling you one on one. So you put your rapier away.
Yeah,
Next time you get shot.
it cost him an eye, but he didn't take any lives. But it was the first place that he moved on. It was the first conquest.
And then Pines lands after that.
Yes. I don't know if you heard about Koenig Heinzel.
I did. It says they were allies in the last war.
He swears that he wasn't the one that put Heinzel to the flame. I wrote him and told him what a coward he was for the way it went. And he wrote back telling me that I didn't know what I was talking about, but that he didn't do it.
But he's still responsible, because the people under him did it. I don't doubt he looks at it that way, but
I think word for word, that's actually what he said in the letter back. Like, I am responsible for it. But
Hi, friend.
hi, friend.
hello.
Bye, friend.
He says there are some rumors. He says that Mondavi is trying to take his army back.
Mondavi has had a lot of difficulties lately, and they mostly seem to be of his own making. But I don't think his plans have shaken out the way that he had hoped they would.
This is an army that was meant to conquer Vidachi, from what I understand. Not Eisen.
Not Eisen. Certainly not. But for some reason, they follow Seeger instead of their Prince King.
I genuinely don't know if that says more about Mondavi or about Seeger.
I have it on good authority that Seeger is wily and operates in ways that the Vidachi find admirable, which depends, I suppose, on your opinion of the Vidachi, whether you find that good or bad. But
I think it's lovely.
He kind of smiles at that. And he says, it found the company of some Vidachi enormously enjoyable. He says, now there's I'd like to throw into Bull Lake.
Sometimes they're the same person, just kind of depends on the day.
He kind of chuckles. He says it's past sundown. He says, we travel cross Seeger's border in the morning.
That would be the safest bet. Although I might have a
Yes.
little
He says,
look
I'll arrange an honor guard up to the no man's zone. Says in which they should be able to see you bearing a flag of parlay.
Len, you did hear what he said about scouts, did you not?
I did.
I think you should keep your feet planted for the night.
Here.
Fine.
Really?
No, I just it's hard to just kind of go with things sometimes. Like everybody always wants me to scout, so everybody going, no, don't scout this time. I'm just kind of like, oh, huh, okay.
He kind of Seeger looks between Len and like the very pregnant Rosa, and he's like, I think you should remain unfeathered as well.
Yeah.
I expected more arguing.
I know. That's why I had to kind of rope-a-dope you a little there. I told you she was gonna warm up to me eventually. And yeah, we're before I was distracted by trolling my wife. We're definitely willing to take any additional correspondence with us. Anybody else?
I
has
forgot
something
that
to say?
Kathrinia is Falk's sister, so I saw Falk's sister and I was like, you mean Anna? And I was just so confused there for a minute.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
was
Falk,
so lost.
it's like, yep. Falk, I'm going to be heading on from here. So if you have anything for your sister,
I'll have a letter by morning.
and Len will kind of catch Falk up on kind of how things are going, or at least the last that he knew. That
Yeah, and he
Flash is safe and has support. And
sits with some tea late into the night, like soaking up everything he can. You know, his sister is his last living family. He clearly cares deeply about her. And I think so we haven't really seen much of Gavin. I I think there isn't really much going on that is of any surprise, right? Like he is
A lot
up
of
to his
sleepless
arms
nights.
how did he get the poop all the way up his back? It's in his hair.
Actual quotes I've heard from parents before.
Yeah.
With babies, shit, and I emphasize shit, really does happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've heard that they're complete poop machines.
Yes.
The 14-year age gap between me and my sister has really taught me a lot about babies and how much more that I don't want one.
Yeah, and I imagine that like it's definitely been a week of like recovery for Hannelore. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot out of her. You know, she jokes about she like birthed half her body weight.
Only partially joke.
But Logan and Wilma are there like near every day, stopping by, bringing by some food. Rutger is like making dinners every single night for like the first 2 weeks, like coming over with groceries, cooking everything himself. Just so it's definitely something where like there is a community that is like helping to take care of Gav, and even Felix has come by occasionally and been like, get some sleep. I can change a diaper. And then waking up like 40 minutes later, like it just keeps pooping.
Yeah, I'm
It's
sure
just
at one point Logan turns the corner and just finds Gav asleep on his feet. A half finished mug of what was probably like heavy spirits at some point, but has now been mostly watered down. He's just dead asleep on his feet. Which is something that I can relate to because that happened to my dad one time.
yeah, and it like after like a week of just nigh sleeplessness, you know what I'm saying? Kind of barely tasting the food that you're getting, you know what I'm saying? It always just seeming like there's a twin in need of something, trying to get Hannelore enough sleep to like be recovering, you know what I'm saying? Make sure that she's getting enough food that she can keep feeding the babies, you know. Um, you know, and then the unbelievable query from her like a week later of like, when do we want to make more? Which she might have said in her sleep, you know, like he's not entirely sure at that point. But you know, she immediately follows it with like, not right away, but
Don't want there to be too big an age gap.
but they're definitely going to need little sisters.
One catastrophe at a time.
The rise of the big women begins.
And
Speaking of big women, one of the things that Gav does do is he does go down to the Dracheneisen mine and personally thank the speaker for the Dracheneisen.
just says, I heard that your marriage happened of a sudden. I didn't get word about it until after.
It was appreciated none the same. I know you are busy down here, and sometimes it is hard to hear over all the hammer.
She kind of smiles. And, she says, I would have liked to have seen how you looked in it. She says, but I think I'll get that opportunity.
We'll be sure to come and tell you the story when we can.
She nods. Um,
They're so cute.
who are
Gav and like everybody that he deals with. Gav is just I just love Gav.
Gav's so wholesome.
Yeah, he really is the sewer surfing suplex cinnamon roll. He's not
Yes.
even Superman at this point.
Mhm.
He's the biggest cinnamon roll I've ever met in a game.
And she kind of she does like look at him. She says, "You're getting enough to eat yourself, right?"
Sometimes food appears in front of my hands and I eat. I don't track the hours most days. Is it day?
She like kind of gestures to the ceiling of the Draconized mine, like like I am the wrong person to ask. And the first council meeting with like the new council after the election is over and stuff like that feels like the strangest voyage into like a different kind of adulthood after the week of like caring for babies and Hannelore. You know, it's like, oh, people want to talk about adult things.
Yeah.
And tax rates and there's sort of like they're setting up the agenda for like the next seat, right? And like what's going to be the priority, and the realization that like there is a battle happening imminently in Fischler that is going to dramatically change where people's priorities might be in terms of spending.
Yeah.
Is enough to kind of convince them to like hold off from casting any votes now. Does that make sense? That battle is expected to happen imminent.
Yeah, war measures and such. And I mean, we're Eisen. I don't see any issue in understanding that this is what we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah. Although there is kind of like a sense of the possibility that if Seeger is pacified, like there's a chance to like reunite Eisen in a way that hasn't really been possible since the end of the War of the Cross. And maybe not under a Riefenstahl, maybe under something else, you know, but it might be possible to come to a permanent agreement of some kind that isn't just every iron prints out for itself.
And I can kind of see like that energy kind of building over the course of the meeting. Like that we're no longer just worried about the fate of Freiburg. We're starting to consider Eisen as a whole, as a country, not a collection of people who don't like each other.
And I think that kind of movement, that possibility, I I like the idea of like ending with Gap kind of like speaking to that effect about like there's a possibility that we, eyes in the country, can rise out of this, and that and the council considering that seriously, ending up like not voting on any measure, not voting on anything at this point, but acquainted with each other in a space of that, like maybe we can cooperate and we could really build something out of this. And us kind of drawing the curtain on that point, as in next time we're going to have Rosa and Len going to speak to Seeger, and in other places, Hans has reached sort of a détente with Posen. She's at least helping against Seeger, even if she's not throwing her entire army at it. Runa's going to be able to come to the aid with what is available from Vish, and willing to ally. Even if they don't have enormous forces, the fact that like 4 Iron Princes are allied against 1 is really meaningful, because it's not even like the 50-50 split that the War of the Cross was. So
Go team.
it is a background change, as a sea change, as they say. So I would like some role-playing nominations. Would like
Hans.
2, please.
Hans and Gav.
Hans. Yep.
Yep.
It was brief there at the end, but it was very cute. This Gav the daddy.
Gav is so
Big
wholesome.
Daddy Freehoff.
Big Papa.
Yeah, I'm pretty good with that. Let's go with Hans and Gav. And I'm going to go ahead and read us out a few minutes early. I am suspecting that the next game is just going to be like there will be a mass battle. Not everybody will be at it, but some people will. It is very possible that could be forestalled. But
Let
you're
me
talking
get
about
there with
you're
Posen,
talking about an
guys,
Iron Prince
please.
whose hubris is stubborn.
Mhm.
Being talked out of a war that he feels he is ready for. So
He has no idea.
He is a seasoned commander and like war type person.
This
And
is true.
I think that I don't know. I feel like he is stubborn, but like you're also bringing to him like it's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. So I guess like it's gonna be one of those things where like the addition of having the Wachtturm and everything arrayed against him, and public sentiment against him as well, like even somebody who's stubborn has to recognize that there are some things that are not really winnable.
And there is that, and there's also the fact that he has survived many wars and many battles, some of which were said to be unwinnable.
It's true, but he didn't do it by being stupid and just sticking to a battle plan despite any of the changes that came about from the other side. So there's
He
that
did
too.
not.
Also, you're like, I'm gonna read us out early. It's 8:01. It's not early.
It
It's on
was
time.
early a minute ago.
It was early when I started it. Okay.
I am going to read us out now, though, and get us out of here. Thank you for everyone watching us on YouTube or live on Twitch. Audience participation always means the world to us. And if you're on YouTube, smash the like, hit the subscribe, make a comment in the down below. Here at Dirty 20, we always sign out with the same call to action. Be nice, be kind when you have the spoons, but even when you don't, be nice. Be nice to strangers. Be nice to family. Be nice to your loved ones. Be nice to yourself. Thank you for coming on this journey with us, and we will see you next week.
Good night.
Bye.
Night, y'all.
Good night.